I think it's safe to say that if you're a progressive like me, you probably have an assumption that in the future, things will be better. In a year, in 10 years, certainly in 100 years, when we've passed the singularity, progress will be made in technology, but also in society. And what do we expect will lead to that? Well, education, perhaps, a desire to advance science and things of that sort. And that's why the results of a recent Huffington Post Yougov poll are a little bit disheartening. When asked how much they trust scientists, this is what Americans had to say. Only 36% reported having a lot of trust in information that they get from scientists, that it's accurate, reliable. 51% said they trust that information only a little, and another 6% said they don't trust it at all. Now, there are some potential sources of bias in research. You've got ideology and you also have the influence of money. And yes, Americans do distrust scientists for those two reasons in large part. When it comes to ideology, 78% of Americans think that information reported in scientific studies is often, 34%, or sometimes 44% influenced by political ideology. And when it comes to money, 82% said they think that scientific findings are often, 43%, or sometimes 39% influenced by the companies or organizations sponsoring them. Now, yes, ideology can result in a scientist pursuing one potential experiment over another, and yes, corporations do fund scientific studies, and you should find out where the money comes from and judge accordingly. But the simple fact that a corporation funded a study, or a scientist has a particular liberal or conservative viewpoint, does not by itself mean that the methodology is flawed. You have to actually look at what they did. Now, yes, they could just lie about the numbers. That's a significant concern, but that's why in science we duplicate research. That's why multiple teams or individuals will conduct the same sort of experiment and find out what's really going on. And what's most interesting about this is that when you actually have companies like tobacco companies that influence research, when you have energy companies trying to bias findings against some sort of understanding of climate change, that's not the sort of stuff that's influencing people to not trust scientists, I don't think. The people who don't agree with those findings, they didn't trust scientists in general terms anyway. But at the end of the day, I do worry about this. As a progressive, I worry about this because, as I said in the intro, I do want the world to evolve. I want it to develop. I want it to be a better place a year or 10 or 100 years from now than it is today. And the problem that I have is that you can talk about methodology, you can talk about corporate financing of studies, but science at least has as its goal the search for truth. That's why they conduct these experiments. That's why other scientists duplicate it. They want to find out the truth at the end of the day. And the people that are deprecating scientists, that are making you distrust them in their coverage of science news, they don't have that same goal, okay? The corporations, the priesthood in many cases, the right-wing media, they don't want you to find out the truth of what's going on in this world. And so you should distrust them far more than you distrust scientists, as flawed as they can be at times.